Hello, I'm Gene Horn, and I'm new to Elite Dangerous. I had just gotten into it over the holidays, of 2020, and now a few months later, here we are in April 2021, and I just have a few months of playtime behind me. So I'm still a newbie at it, but I've done it in VR, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my frustrations with Elite Dangerous that a lot of new players have, in particular now with VR, how frustrating it can be. And just for those that are thinking about it or haven't done it yet, and then for those that have played it for many years but hadn't tried VR, here's some of my thoughts and some of the things I've done. I will say right off top, I love it now, and I had never played it in on the computer monitor. Every hour I've played it, and I've been at it for weeks, has been in the VR. But one of the things that is frustrating about the Elite Dangerous is the learning curve. I mean, there's so many nuances to it, and you need access with a space simulation type of program to to numerous commands, absolutely numerous commands. And in VR, all you have is your hand controllers, and you can't see anything like a keyboard or anything of that sort. So you kind of lose all of the ability to use keyboard commands, and that's just so frustrating and hard to do in the VR setting. But some of the other things that I've noticed is, of course, you can't do a keyboard search if you want to search a system or do a query to find the system. You can't type in messages if you're into multiplayer and you want to be chatting back and forth. All that is very difficult or impossible to do in VR. Some of the other things I noticed is that you get sick and you get nauseated. I do fairly well at VR, and I can play Elite Dangerous for, to be honest with you, for hours. Sometimes, people who are pretty good with VR can go for a half hour to an hour, and then it's troublesome. I'm actually pretty good where I can go hours with Elite Dangerous with no problem. But if you turn flight assist off, for me, if I turn flight assist off, this doesn't matter for most of the gameplay, but for those advanced combat users, you may find that you want to have flight assist off. It gives you a slight advantage. In VR, if you're like me, you won't get that because you end up getting nauseated as soon as you turn flight assist off. If you don't know what that means, that Elite Dangerous in normal flight simulation mode, it simulates atmospheric drag. So once you put in a rotation command, it'll fly like an airplane instead of just keep spinning around like a spaceship. I think that could be managed if you're really into combat by changing the sensitivity settings, but I'm not sure about that. The other thing I have difficulty in, it's not as bad as turning flight assist off, but the other thing I have difficulty with is getting out on the planet and running around in the SRV. I can do that for 10 minutes or so, but if it's a really hilly planet or a lot of bumps and stuff, yeah, I get motion sickness in the VR setting. But it's manageable. All that said, I like to say this, that I find playing Elite Dangerous in VR incredible. And I'll go through some of the tips I have for you if you want to do the same to overcome some of the difficulties and frustrations. But it's wondrous. If you've been playing for years in the 2D and you want to go to 3D and see what it's like, and you have a VR set, you got to try it. It's absolutely, it's a space simulation. And what better way to play to be out in space, encapsulated in your spaceship, in a complete 3D setting where your whole ship is around you. And some of the pros to this is that you know, you have the wonder of the galaxy and the vast beauty all around you in complete wholeness in a sense. And then the other thing is, you can get up and be the commander of your ship. You know, I like to think of it as the old Captain Picard in Star Trek, where he's not tied to his chair. He can stand up and walk around his flight deck and say engage, and the ship goes, you know, and be a commander rather than just sit there as a pilot all the time. So VR gives you that freedom, especially if you play for, you know, long lengths of time. You can stand up, stretch, and just enjoy the beauty and stretch and walk around your flight deck. Yeah, so I'm in a Crate Phantom here, and it's got one of the nicest flight decks, if not the nicest flight deck in all of the ships that currently are in Elite Dangerous. And it is my favorite ship at the moment. I still have some more I need to buy and try, but I love this ship, and I've used it for a lot of exploration. So let's get into it. Some of the things I've done. Well, I find that if you want to play in VR, since you don't have access to keyboard, you're going to have to use almost every button you have on your joysticks. So I'm using the throttle from the HOTAS, the Thrustmaster, but I'm not using that joystick. I use the KB Sim Gladiator joystick. So obviously then the best way, I think, and the way I feel that you can do Elite Dangerous in VR is to use a joystick with all the extra buttons on it, so you can give each button a command, and then also having the throttle. Just as you look inside your commander's seat, you have the throttle on your left, the joystick on your right, and you have all those buttons you can touch and use them as commands. The secret is your external panel, and the panel on the right is what Elite Dangerous refers to as the internal panel. Is in VR, every time you move your head, those panels flip on and off, and they get in the way if you want to look at something. So I go into the menu system, and here we are. I'm going down the menu now. The first thing you should do when you go into menus, if you want to play VR, is go over here to the right, and once you do that, it will rebind the VR hand controllers. In my case, I have an Oculus. Now back to the menus. The very first key you want us to go is the head reset position, and you go down the menus and find miscellaneous, and then look for reset HMD orientation. As you can see, the way I have mine set up, it says custom. I start by letting it automatically set it to the hand controllers, and then I can go over and then start resetting each of the commands in the menu as I go through. And a tip on this: don't try to do every command and figure all this out. It'll take you forever. Just go through. I'm going to give you some of the basic ones to go out there and fly with, and then over the course of weeks, you will keep adjusting these and tweaking them and finding more joystick buttons. But you know, you'll end up wasting your time if you spend too much time trying to map out every button right away. So what I'm finding is that between using the hand controllers and the HOTAS system with a throttle and a joystick, I'm able to play the game and enjoy it and overcome many of the frustrations. But it's requiring me to keep the hand controllers nearby so I can use them when I need to. Most of the flying around, I'm not using hand controllers. It's only when I stop to scan a planet or do those kind of things that I have to let my hand go of the joystick and go to the hand controller. So the next thing you want to do is go to the mode switches, and then run down here and look for in the menu where it says looking at external panel, set to does nothing. And then go do that the same looking at internal panel, set to does nothing. That way when you're in VR and you're swinging your head or moving your head around, those panels don't keep flying up and opening up and closing off on you. Or even more frustrating, when you're trying to use a panel, it closes off because you moved your head too far. So set to does nothing, and then of course immediately go up to external, set to joystick or throttle button, and then in internal set to another button. So you decide which buttons that make sense for you on your joystick or your throttle to open up and keep. And we'll see, once you hit that button, it'll keep the panel open no matter what you do with your head. And once you click it again, it will turn it off. So that's been a wonderful tip for me for working in VR. I don't mind the communications and the other panel. That's when you look down into your lap, a panel comes up. That's not, I leave that one. That one goes up and down automatically, but it's up to you if you want to set those permanent. But by not setting those, I don't have to worry about setting buttons to them. And obviously you're going to go and check your throttle and your joystick and make the proper selection, so you get rotation, you get pitch, and you get yaw all on the joystick, and then set up your throttle to operate the way you want that. I got mine so when I pull it back to the neutral position, so I set mine to continuous. So another item we want to have for sure is toggle frame shift drive. You do not need to set any buttons for super cruise or hyperspace jump. That's totally unnecessary to have individual joystick buttons wasted on those. If you toggle frame shift drive and set a button for that, you hit it once, you go into super cruise. You hit it the second time, you go into hyperspace. If you've selected a particular target that's light years away, you usually only have to hit it once and it will go into hyperspace. So there's no need for those other two buttons to be taken up. And then you want to select toggle engine boost. So the two buttons here you want is toggle engine boost and toggle frame shift drive. I notice also I have a button for flight assist and one for orbital line, but they're not priority. You may want to wait till you got your basic things figured out after a week or two, and if you still have free buttons, then you can go back in and start filling in those free buttons for things that you think are priority. So you're going to go into the menu option for targeting, and then there set a button for select target ahead. That's an important one that you're going to want to have right away. And then also target next system en route. That one's important when you start going into the galaxy map and you begin doing routes. You can then get off your path, go anywhere you want, and then when you're ready to jump back into your waypoints, you hit that button and it'll select the next system en route. That's a handy one to have, but also not priority. I actually use my hat switch to translate to the left or to the right. In other words, your ship, instead of rotating, it will just slide to the right or slide to the left, and I do that with my hat switch. Forward, then the ship will go forward. It's almost the same as using the throttle, but it's using the translation thrusters, and then back to go backwards. Land on. And certainly necessary to dock and find that target in the middle of the docking spot. And then of course up and down. So I use a rocker switch on my throttle to translate straight up and to translate down. It's kind of, think of it as like helicopter mode. Left and right, back and forward and up and down, instead of the rotational pitch, yaw, and rotation. Once you got those settled, there's a ton of other buttons you're going to want to use for other commands. Don't worry about those. You'll figure those out one by one, and that's my tip for starting out in VR. The other important thing is you got to be able to, when you're moving around the menus in those panels, you got to be able to go from tab to tab. where you select the next tab and set a button. So I have a button on my throttle. So every time I press that button, it moves to the next tab whenever I'm in the panel. And so I can go from tab to tab. And then once I'm in a panel, I can navigate up and down with the hat switch. And then if I need to select an item in the menu, I hit the select button. And I put that one on my throttle too. So that's vital for playing this in VR, is that you can navigate the menus and make a selection in the menus. For example, every time you come to dock, you need to contact the dock master and request permission. And in order to make that request, you have to go over to request docking and then select it. So you need to be able to navigate with the hat switch and then hit a button on either your throttle or your joystick that will make the selection for you. Under the option menu, weapons, you can go in to pick your joystick triggers. Obviously, that's pretty easy. I don't know that I have to talk to that one. You know what triggers you have. You should have a primary and a secondary trigger on your joystick.
Landing gear deployed.
And then cycle to next fire group. That one is pretty important. So you can cycle through your fire groups. Later on, as you get more confidence in the game, you'll have a lot of different weapons and other things that end up having, you'll need more than 2 triggers. And so you have to move from one fire group to the next.
Landing completed. Ground crew dispatched. Station facilities are at your disposal.
Looking here, you can divert power to engines, to systems, to weapons. Whatever of those, there's 4 of them there. You can set, if you have plenty of joystick buttons for that, you can do that there. Notice that I also have a lot of the Oculus Rift hand controller stuff set up. You can fool around with those some other time at your leisure. I just probably don't even bother with most of them, but I do find the Oculus Rift hand controllers handy when I'm down on a planet driving the SRV and doing scans and that kind of thing. I find Cruise Assist to be one of those things that I use continually when I'm in VR. I know a lot of people like to turn that off, but they turn on docking assist. I'm just the opposite. I like to always use Cruise Assist, and then I never worry about whether or not I'm going to fly past the planet and do a run around. I just use Cruise Assist, and then when I get to where I'm going, I turn off dock assist, and then I fly manually into dock. That's what does it for me. That's my preference. So that's it, and hopefully you enjoy these tips and you'll be able to enjoy the wonder of Elite Dangerous in 3D. Catch you next time.
Chargement FSD en cours.